The Atlanta Reign had a lot of potential this season, and they were off to a very, very strong start, coming third in both the Kickoff Clash and Midseason Madness, but somewhere along the way, the wheels fell off the cart. So to end the season, they go 13-11 with a +9 map differential and 16 points, despite missing the Summer Showdown because they get a little boost from coming third in the Midseason Madness. So it's good for 5th in NA, basically. The roster by the end is Kai, Nero, Venom, and Speedily on DPS, Gatorhawk on tank, and OG, Ultraviolet, Vigilante as your supports. So to go through all these players for a brief moment, Kai's Soldier in the Kickoff Clash was pretty underwhelming compared to his reputation as, one of the best Western hit scans the league has to offer. Maybe because Soldier doesn't have that many pop-off moments besides a Nano Visor, which is pretty lame, and Kai's more of a flick scan. So it just wasn't as great there, but Midseason Madness, his Sojourn was insane. It was definitely next level. Unfortunately for him, as the Sojourn meta progressed and the playstyle shifted away from sitting back and just hitting your shots, it got more and more active, which fell away with his playstyle, and he just kind of tanked down. In the end, he wasn't even maybe a top 10 Sojourn, I would say. Like, his aim was still really good, but just how you play the character, the optimal way that most teams were doing it, he wasn't him on it. Then looking at Nero, he was decent, but he was basically used as a fill pick for whenever you didn't want to run Venom on Tracer. It was like, you didn't run Nero for Nero, you ran Nero because you didn't want to run Venom at that point. And in the Midseason Madness, that really showed through whenever Venom just kind of took his job, basically, and was Tracer full-time along with it. And Nero was filling in. He knew he was waiting for the day that Speedily turned of age and that he was going to be on the bench permanently, pretty much. Because Speedily comes in during the Summer Showdown, and unfortunately, he didn't live up to the hype. He was supposed to be something that would change the Atlanta Reign season. It didn't happen. In fact, Atlanta Reign were worse with him than without him, which is not a great look for Toronto, but I think it was more of he was thrown in at the middle of the season. He didn't have an ability to play Overwatch 2, really, because there was no ranked or anything for them. And so he just wasn't in a great spot to succeed, despite getting a lot of results, playing a lot of Echo, which is his preferred character. Just didn't really work. And then Venom on the Tracer. Bro was insane on some maps, but he was kind of forcing it, and whenever he was forcing it, didn't look great, but it wasn't the worst thing ever either. It is what it is. You know what you're getting with Venom, you're getting a pretty good Tracer. He did die a lot. However, I think mechanically he was really good. His highs, I can look over his lows because his highs were very high. He won the map straight up. Then you get Gator, who was pretty much benched except for a bit in the Kickoff Clash where he played Ryan against Hottie and got dicked down. And he played some Winston, but basically after the first stage, they were like, nah, we'll just run Hawk full time. Then Hawk comes in, he's playing a lot of stuff, but mainly Doomfist. Get a little bit of Zarya in there, get a little bit of Diva in there, all that stuff. But it was good. He was the joke. But one thing that follows through all of his heroes is a pretty high death rate. Pretty aggressive. You could say that they were dysfunctional as a team, whatever you want to do. He died a lot on a lot of different heroes. From Doomfist, Junker Queen, his Winston, everything wasn't great. And he had a pretty good season overall, but I think his joke status is a little bit overrated compared to, I don't know, a Reiner even, Dante perhaps, those kind of players. I feel like Hawk's joke status is more in question to me because his Doomfist was basically used to patch up holes in his Winston and his Wrecking Ball and things like that. Not like you needed to play Wrecking Ball, but yeah, pretty much. Then you get OG, and I think he was probably the most underrated player on Atlanta. I think he was pretty good all around. He didn't really look bad to me. Maybe his flex support, his BAP, his Zen wasn't what you want, but as a main support, flexing to those characters, I don't think they were bad either. I think he was solid. I think I maybe had higher expectations for him, but I don't think he played poorly, and I think he was solid. I think he was fine. He's not flashy. That's okay. Then UV had a really strong start, but his Brig was so bad they actually traded for Vigilante in the Summer Showdown, which is like, bro, it's kind of tough. And his Curie in the playoffs wasn't great either, but his Ana, his BAP, no real complaints there. He's a very aggressive player. He makes things happen. Whether they be good things, bad things, he made them happen. Then you have Vigilante, played some good Brig, played some double flex support in the Countdown Cup. That's about it. Not too much to say about his season overall. So now looking at the whole team, Kickoff Clash, a lot of Doomfist, a lot of Zarya, a bit of Winston, as I mentioned with Gator, and it was pretty good cohesive team overall, right? The Doom comp was looking pretty strong, and beating Shock in that playoffs to basically secure third place was a large upset that not many people saw coming. And I bet you the Shock players really, really wish I had that one back. Sam and Kaluge, whenever they went on to the chat podcast, they were like, that one stung. We should have had that one. And maybe they should have. But Atlanta came out and they played a damn good game. They end up winning, and then they lose to number 1 and 2 because they were number 3. They come third in 2 tournaments back to back. Just insane. Playoff Atlanta is, I think it's still real in my eyes. You can say, well, they didn't have a good playoffs, actually. Yeah, but the meta just was not good for them at all, right? You were getting Hawk on the Winston. It was not great. I think if they have a legitimate shot in a meta, the playoff Atlanta is still real. Because looking at this, they were 3 and 3 in the kickoff clash. It was not that pretty. Third place is pretty good. So then, Midseason Madness. It was even better. So Jorn lets Kai do more. UV being able to play BAP more, pretty good. I think his BAP is insane. And even though OG Zen was mid, I still think it's worth it. And then Venom goes even crazier because Genji is a little more out of favor. You get to come in with the Tracer. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. You come in Midseason Madness, you beat some teams that you don't expect them to beat. Shanghai, they just took the mirror and they beat them. You beat Seoul, you beat everyone. Except for the Gladiators, again, and London, because London just has their number. But pretty good. Summer Showdown, very tough. UV, awful at break. Just horrible. Speedily was allegedly scrimming even before he was of age, so they end up losing 2 matches that should be very winnable. Because maybe you just say, you know what? Let's play Nero here, give him the actual scrim time, because he was playing with like no scrim time, and Genji's a hugely impactful character in that meta. So they probably could have won those 2 matches. Not like Boston was all that. Toronto was very good in this stage, but at this point, they didn't really have it all together. It was very early. I think it was winnable, and they kind of tossed in scrims because of that. You beat Paris, you beat London, and even though they were getting better towards the end, they weren't as good as Houston. The Gladiators were insane at the end of this at the end of this group qualifier. So it's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Too little, too late from Atlanta, for sure. Too little, too late. Then Countdown Cup, you get some fun stuff. You get some diva gameplay from Hawk. You get Speedily fucking around in Echo and stuff. But like, no one cares about the Countdown Cup. And then the playoffs was tough. You lose to Florida twice in a row. Hawk as their guy, fully as the tank on Winston, not it. They brought in Gator a little bit, but he was also ass. Bad meta for them. It's just not great. You get Reaper, you don't really get a place for... I mean, I don't know. It just is what it is. Kai, in this one, especially showed that the Sojourn was not in his favor. This was probably the biggest hyper-aggressive Sojourn meta because as it developed, you got players like Edison Proper that instead of backing away from a Winston Kite, you just went all in. You just fucking inted, right? That's very much not Kai. Did not work out well for them. But yeah. Looking at the team overall, like some different usage stats, they played a lot more Tracer, a lot more Doom, a lot more Zen and Diva than most players. The most teams, rather. But you see a lot less Genji, Winston, and Zarya, surprisingly. Even though they did play Zarya in the countdown, in the kickoff clash, they didn't really touch it in the Countdown Cup at all, which is probably why you see less, and they weren't playing as much as, you know, the Zarya teams, Dallas, Hangzhou, those kind of guys. So I didn't expect that, because I do remember Hawk on the Zarya was doing some work in the kickoff clash. But yeah, you get a lot of Tracer, a lot more Tracers than normal. 55, not too many teams have Tracer most played, but Venom... when they were at their best, Venom was popping off. And that's that. So anyway, let me know, Atlanta, how you think. Of course, this season, they've gone full Korean plus Hawk and Gator head coach, so I don't even know what the fuck to think about their season right now. I'll be doing some preview stuff kind of soon, but I want to wrap up these reviews ones. I know they're like 3 weeks out from Pro-Ams, but only got a few more of these left, so may as well take them off. Anyway, have yourself a good one. Deuces.